Welcome to Shrimperscast with me, Steve Mansfield.
And me, Paul Hill. On today's show,
tumbleweed at the Hall and on the road as winter weather batters Shrimpers' fixture schedule.
It's no football again as Wealdstone wield the axe an hour before kickoff, calling off the reverse of the most cursed fixture of the season.
I sit down with one-man stat machine and tactics expert Joe of Shrimperscast to hear all about his top transfer targets.
And we look forward to facing runaway league leaders Chesterfield away at the weekend.
Hello, greetings, and welcome to another Shrimperscast episode. I'm here with Paul Hill, Mr. Paul Hill. How you doing, Paul? You all right?
All the better for seeing your face, Squire. How are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's quite late on Wednesday. We've both had a full-on working day, so we're a little bit shattered. So apologies to the listeners out there if you can hear the croakiness in our voices, the tired, withered tones of our, just, you know, we're a bit knackered, aren't we, Paul? But we're here for you. We're here for Southend. I mean, it's been a bit of a ghostly experience recently. Almost every game seems to be being cancelled. I can't remember the last time a game happened, and it seems to be Wealdstone fixtures in particular that are extra cursed.
Yes.
So Tuesday night's away fixture got pulled, much to the anger of many Southend fans. It got pulled about an hour before kickoff, which, to be honest, is not on, is it? I know it's not that far, but it's still a trek, you know, on a Tuesday night in January. I know I saw a lot of angry people on Twitter, and who can blame them, Paul?
Well, there we are. The thing, it baffles me. If your pitch is a sponge at like 4 or 5 o'clock, it's still going to be a sponge at 7 o'clock, isn't it? So that, you know, you would have thought they would have used their noggins a little bit and put it out a little bit early, or maybe they'd play mind games with us. You know, what are they playing at? What's going on? Yes, but it does seem like it's the most postponed match ever. But do you actually know what is the most postponed match ever?
No. What, have you got a fact for me?
Yeah, I've got a stato here. Look at this one.
Come on,
So the most postponed match, apparently, this is from my little bit of research while I was sitting on the toilet earlier, is between Inverness Caledonian Thistle and Falkirk back in 1979. It was postponed a colossal 29 times over a 47-day period.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know the reasons? Go on. What was the score?
Well, it was 0-0, wasn't it? No, I'm only joking. That would have been funny though if it was 0-0, wouldn't it? No, yeah, Falkirk smashed them 4 goals, I think, in the first half. But yeah, it was back in 1979 where the weather was particularly harsh up there, and yes, they couldn't play up there in the Highlands in Inverness. So there we are.
I was going to say most likely it was the weather that called that off, as opposed to, you know, getting cup fixtures ruining the schedule or whatever. So I know, like I say, lots of Southend fans were pretty peeved, to say the least. But Bernie, on the other hand, I sent him a little message. I knew he was on his way, so I sent him a little message before we started recording. Just said, "Did you end up going? And you know, where did you get to?" And before you turned back, he said, "Oh, the M40." And he'd gone with Dave, you know, Dave the photo. And I said, how annoyed were you? And he said, I wasn't really, actually. It was quite a good night out in the end. We had a good chat. So, you know, ever the optimist. But, you know, I know a lot of you out there listening may have made that journey and been very angry. But, you know, just be safe in the knowledge that at least Bernie had a good night.
Yeah, he always has a good night, does Bernie, I'm sure.
He does indeed.
So we've got 2 games now in hand, though, haven't we? With Altrincham being postponed and now Wealdstone. How do you think these games and how important are they going to be heading now towards the back end of this season? This could be might work in our favour, you know, with them 2 games in hand.
There's just going to be another fixture pile-up, isn't there, towards the end? So, Paul, last week we were speculating about a potential signing that was on the cards, and you know, it felt like it was pretty much there. And it happened, didn't it? Your
Yeah.
prediction, your crystal ball worked. We are
Well,
going to talk with Joe from Shrimperscast specifically about Danny Waldron in a bit, about how effective he might be making that step up. But just on a fanboy basis, Paul, how excited are you?
well, it was the worst kept secret in Southend, and probably non-league football, to be fair. But looking at his goal return, it's really good. He knows where the net is. He's a young, exciting, dynamic forward, and I can't wait to see him. I know it's a step up going into full-time football, but I think he's relishing the challenge. And I mean, what a signing, really. Absolutely great. He's at that brilliant age, 27. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be. Hopefully, it won't take too long for him to settle in. He might want to hit the ground running. Could be another Freddie Eastwood, give us a hat trick in a matter of seconds on his debut. How good would that be? But he's certainly got the talent there, hasn't he? And certainly knows where the goal is. But of course, we don't want to talk too much about his attributes, because we do have our man, the stat man, coming on. So, but yeah, I'm dead excited for it. I can't wait to see him play. And I think he's going to link up very well with our attacking-minded players at the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, it is a step up, but with Cardwell potentially returning to fitness, and we've got a few options up there now, so it's not going to be all on his shoulders. But I'm sure he's raring to go, and he's missed 2 opportunities now to make his debut, both against Wealdstone. And I'm sure he'll be in the frame for the tricky game away at Chesterfield on Saturday. So we will be previewing that shortly.
Well, like you say there, we're now getting that competition in places across the pitch, because I've seen Harry Sandat is now on loan until the end of the season. So
Henry.
Did I say Harry again? Oh, look, it's you. You made me say that last week. But yes, Henry Sandat, of course. So we've got Henry Cards, and now our new signing, Danny Waldron, up top. I mean, wow, look at that. When was the last time we could look forward to having, such the luxury of 3 attacking-minded players up top that are all, challenging now for that top spot, wanting to score them goals for the mighty Blues.
Yeah, competition is always a good thing, isn't it? So we will come on to the Chesterfield game shortly. But before we do that, we've got a really special guest, someone that I've wanted to get on for a while. His name is Joe, and he runs the Shrimperscast Twitter, and he's got his own blog as well. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but if you don't follow him, please check him out. He goes really in depth. He talks a lot about tactics, and he's just released a really in-depth article about transfer targets, which is what I spent a bit of time on Sunday night talking to him about. So let's have a listen to that now. Welcome to Shrimperscast. I'm sat here with a very special guest, a guy I've had an idea of trying to get onto the show for a little while. We are in the presence of Joe of Shrimperscast. Joe, welcome to Shrimperscast.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. How are you doing today? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, good. Thanks. Happy to get my recruitment document finished.
Yeah,
that was a bit of work. So
yeah. It looked it. It looked it. So we're going to talk through Joe's just published this amazing recruitment document. Now that Southend are able to make signings, Joe has gone to great lengths and produced a really in-depth recruitment document, which is going to form the main focus of the interview today. But before we get onto that, Joe, just for our listeners who perhaps don't follow you on the socials and haven't read your blog, can you tell us a little bit about Shrimperscast and why you started the account and started blogging in the first place?
Yeah, so I probably started my sort of Twitter account, which is just Shrimperscast, probably about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, just because I was sort of interested in stats and that sort of data analysis side of it.
Yeah.
And then as it's took off a little bit, I've got a few followers on there, and I've just obviously learned more about tactics and just general kind of analysis. Really, people seem to kind of enjoy it, I think. So it's all going all right. Some of the stuff I do on there is basically I do a bit of pre-match um, tactical analysis, how I think certain games might go. I might look at post-match what actually happened. Obviously, what we just spoke about. Sometimes I should suggest potential transfer targets
Yeah.
using data and stuff. So it's just kind of generic analysis on Southend, really.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. I've got to say, some of the stuff on there that I've seen, it's really insightful, and it's kind of a different way of looking at football, kind of really drilling into the numbers. And you've got a bit of a statistical background. You work with numbers in your work life, is that right?
yeah. So I mean, I don't work in football yet,
You'll get there,
hopefully,
mate.
but
You'll get there. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So no, I work in like financial analysis, so there's a little bit of overlap there.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, obviously it's very different to this sort of stuff. But
yeah,
a little bit of background, I
yeah.
suppose.
So we won't tell your current employer, but you're obviously, you've got one eye on moving into football, and actually you got the ultimate recently, right? So as far as your line of statistical analysis in the National League goes, you got probably the best thing that could happen. You got an England call up, right? You got summons by England. So tell us a little bit about
No,
that.
so no, yeah, every year there's an England C match, which is called the England C team. It's basically a pick of the non-league players in Southend's league.
Yeah,
Whoever is eligible to represent England, they'll play Wales
yeah,
every year. So it's like the Welsh non-league team. Basically, for this year's match, which is in March, I've been able to be involved in preparing some of the squad for the England team.
amazing.
And how that come about was basically through my Twitter account. I've got to know other people with similar sort of interests. There's a few sort of Notts County fans who obviously now they're got promoted, but speaking to them for the last couple of years, I've got to know them. Last year, they helped pick the team for the England team. So when it comes to this year's one, I just sort of said, if you need a hand, obviously give us a shout.
Brilliant.
And I think because they like my work, I've wrote a couple of articles for them. They said, yeah, like they get me on board. So we've been working on that. Obviously, I can't go into detail too much, but yeah, it's. I think the match is going to be in March, so we're getting close to that.
That's brilliant.
Close to the match, yeah. Preparing the squad.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on that, because you're doing some really good work, and it's good to be recognised. And I think you're the one of the only people associated with Southend at the moment that's getting anywhere near an England squad. So well done, mate. Really, really good.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're going to focus. Our main thrust of this interview is going to be on your recruitment piece that you've done recently. So for those of you that haven't seen this, get onto Joe's Twitter. He's on Twitter or X as we call it now. We're forced to call it. He's there at Shrimperscast, and there's a link there to the recruitment document. And what Joe's done in a nutshell is he's picked 6 positions that Southend should be focusing on with their next recruitment drive. He's then basically gone through a list of targets, realistic targets as well, not just pie in the sky, players that might be looking to either make a step up, a step down, a step sideways, or they might have reasons for moving. So a lot of them might have been frozen out of their current clubs and things like that. So it's, there's a lot of thought gone into it. It's very statistically minded as well. So it's looking at all the different characteristics that each player would have and different attributes. So it's really, really interesting. But what we're going to do today, because we won't have time to kind of go into all that level of detail, is I asked Joe to pick 3 positions. So we're going to go through 3 positions, and we're then going to pick the top pick out of those 3 positions that Joe thinks would be available for Southend to try and get in, to kind of either provide cover or maybe competition to become that first choice. So I hope I've done that justice there, Joe.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Good. So the 3 positions that we're going to go through are left-sided centre-back. So essentially kind of cover for Ralphie. Left-sided central midfield, and the kind of support striker, or your number 10 position. So let's kick off with that Ralphie position. So I mean, he's absolutely brilliant, isn't he? So he's kind of irreplaceable, but does pick up injuries, and he's not always available. And how old is he now?
I think he's almost 31.
Okay, he's got.
So he's not old, but yeah,
might start picking up a few more if he's injury prone. So that's the left-sided sort of centre back position. So as I understand it, more really from reading your stuff, actually, Jay, he's got responsibilities of getting up and supporting the attack as well over on the left-hand side. So yeah, over to you, really. Who's your number one pick, and what are the key attributes that you're looking at there to cover that position?
Yeah. So first of all, if I just sort of speak about Ralph and sort of his attributes and what the requirements are for that role. So I mean, he's got quite a unique profile, because obviously, you're going to be asked to defend in the middle of the pitch. When we're defending deep, we've got a back five. He'll sort of be that centre back.
Yeah.
So he's obviously good in the air, like he's very good in the air, considering he's not like the biggest.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the other defenders, we've got like Brooklyn, Kensdale, like Lomas,
aren't they? Yeah,
people like that. They're massive.
big guys.
Like, Ralph's not that type of player,
Yeah.
but he's still very good in the air.
Yeah.
But he's also more mobile than the other defenders we've got.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important, because obviously if he's playing on the outside of the back three, there's going to be times where he has to defend more on the touchline.
Yeah.
So he might be up against a really quick, tricky winger who can sort of move and shift direction very quickly.
Yeah.
And you don't want someone who's really big and strong,
slow on the turn.
You want someone who's quite mobile.
Yeah.
But like I said, he's good in the air as well, so he can do both things. And it's important as well, because our left wing back is Jack Bridge, and sometimes he's asked to push forwards. Obviously, he's our most creative player. He essentially plays as a winger when we're attacking.
When we got the ball, yeah.
So there's sometimes he'll have a lot of ground to cover on that left-hand side, and he'll almost have to be like a left back, which he is really. So he's got a unique sort of profile which fits his role in the team very well. And also when we get into the final third, because he's more of a left back really, he's able to overlap Jack Bridge and sort of give Bridge like another option to use, because obviously we've seen a lot of times where Bridge has been sort of doubled up on by the opposition. They've put two players on him, and then it's obviously hard for him to do anything.
Well, they did that really well recently, right? Was that against Halifax? Was it? There was that little interplay on the left, and then Ralph got the assist in for Gus, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
lovely little interplay, and they're both very good on the ball and complement each other, don't they? So yeah, so
exactly.
I think what you're saying is that's quite a hard profile to kind of find a player, right?
It's exactly, because you've got to be able to obviously, like I said, you want to be able to defend your box, like in terms of crosses coming into the box, but you also got to defend as a left back almost. And in the final third, obviously it helps. So it's very difficult when you're looking at bringing in someone to fill that role, perfectly in every sort of phase. It's difficult.
Yeah.
The person I found is from Spennymoor Town in the lower National League North. He's called Reece Staunton.
Okay.
He's my number one pick for that role. He's, I think, just turned 22, so he fits that kind of profile of player that we go for, quite younger.
Yeah.
He's left-footed, which obviously helps. If you're overlapping Bridge, you want him to be left-footed and get a first-time crossing. But he's tall, but he's he's strong as well. Yeah. He's not he's not like lanky. He's strong enough to be able to defend. When you look at where he's played for Spennymoor, he's either played on the left of a back three, which is what we play, but he's also played left wing back.
Right.
So I think that sort of shows that he is mobile enough to be able to be that,
and versatile
almost like
enough.
a left back.
Yeah.
So obviously if you're looking at someone like who plays like Lomas, for example, who plays on the right side of our back three, you wouldn't really want him playing as a wing back, because he's not really as mobile. Whereas Reece Staunton, for me, what I've seen of him, he's very mobile. He's able to sort of cover both positions. And I just think, looking at him, he'll be that perfect fit. He's because of his age, I don't think, because he's younger and he'll be moving up a league, I don't think there'll be that huge expectation for him to be playing every week.
Yeah.
which is what we want, because obviously Ralph's our captain, his first choice. We don't want someone to demand they're going to play every week.
Yeah.
So that's important as well. And I think he can cover two positions down that left-hand side.
So he can cover Bridge if he gets injured, and he can cover Ralph.
Yeah.
And also, from his perspective, it's a step up, but also he'll be learning from two either very experienced or, very effective players in that position at a level above. So you would expect it to probably be quite an attractive proposition to him if Southend did go in for him. Okay, so that is the left-sided centre-back first choice. You heard it here first on Shrimperscast, or unless you read it on Joe's blog, of course. That's Rhys Staunton from Spennymoor Town. So that is the left-sided centre-back first position. So the next position we're going to look at is left of central midfield. So, Joe, what have you got for us?
So, this is where Wes Fongook plays for us.
Yeah.
We've just brought in James Moulton, who's another midfielder. I think he can play in this position. And we do have cover across the midfield three. We've got probably 5 players going for 3 positions. When you look at, we've got Miley, Moulton, Hussein, Coker, and Fongook. The reason I'd like another one is because, again, what we just mentioned about Jack Bridge, that kind of link up there. What Fongook, I think, is excellent at is how he links with Bridge. So Bridge plays on the left side. He's right-footed, so he wants to cut in a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And we said he gets doubled up on a lot. So where Fongook plays, if he is static and he doesn't move, he's in that space what Bridge wants to cut into.
Yeah.
But what Fongook does really well is he makes forwards runs beyond the defence, which takes players away from that space that Bridge wants to cut into.
Yeah.
So it frees up that space and Bridge can cut in and get across him.
Yeah.
But I don't think, from what I've seen, that we've got another midfielder who replicates that part of Wes's game.
Yeah.
I think they're all good players. They all contribute. But in terms of those forward runs beyond defences, I don't think we've got someone who can replicate it.
Just to clear that space for Bridge, to give him that chance to play his game and be as dangerous as he can be. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And I just think if Fongook were to get injured or we needed to rest him or it got later in the game and he was tired, then we can bring someone else on, but we lose that dynamic. And I think it's important because left side is where most of our play comes from with Bridge.
Yeah.
So the player that I've identified plays for Ebbsfleet in our league, Toby Edser.
Yeah.
He's a left-footed, which I think again is important, which I'll get onto in a minute. But he's left-footed centre midfielder. He pretty much meets all of my criteria. When I looked for players using the data, everything he was meeting. Even though Ebbsfleet are not having the best season, he was still putting up some very impressive numbers. And when I watch him play as well, he just fits that role perfectly, I think. The reason that I think it's important he's left-footed is because when Fongook makes those forward runs, if Bridge wants to play him a through pass rather than cutting across the ball, then Fongook receives the ball on his left foot, where if he wants to cross the ball into the box, it's on his weaker foot,
right? Which
that's okay, but it's not ideal. So then sometimes he has to cut back and miss the opportunity to get the ball into the box.
Yeah. It slows it down and the opportunity's gone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's important to replicate those forward runs, but also if they're left-footed as well, that would be perfect. And so Edser, for me, is the perfect sort of profile for that role. The only sort of, not even criticism, but the only thing I'd sort of mention is he's not the tallest.
Right.
So I think that when it comes to defending in midfield, he might not be the strongest.
Yeah.
But he's still ranked well on the data at that defensive part of his game.
Okay.
But there's something to keep an eye on. But I think in terms of what we need, given us another option, he'd be the perfect fit. He's my number one choice for that role.
And I'm reading the blog as we're talking, and he's 25 years old as well. So again, he's kind of fits that profile of he's got experience in the division, but he's not sort of reaching the end of his career. So there's potential sort of development there, potential sell on value, etc., etc. So he probably fits the Southend profile.
Yeah, exactly. And I think coming from like a smaller club potentially as well, that helps, where we wouldn't be, looking to sign someone who's playing every week for a team near the top of the league, which wouldn't be realistic. Going through my targets, I've tried to keep them as realistic as possible. So for me, Edsa again fits that.
So that is Toby Edsa of Ebbsfleet, who is Joe's number one pick for the left-sided central midfield position. So we've got one more position that we're going to cover. Don't forget, guys, there are 3 other positions on top of this, which we'll talk about at the end. So do check out the blog because it's absolutely comprehensive. There's so many different options. There's beautiful graphs if you're into that sort of stuff. Lots of colours. Really, really lots of work's gone into it. So I would recommend checking out the full thing. So the final position is that classic glamour position. Hey, the one that everyone, well, I don't know, maybe not everyone. Your number 9, maybe your wingers people like, but there's something about a number 10, isn't there? There's something romantic about a number 10. So this is kind of, in Southend system, the support striker. So yeah, Joe, who have you identified as your number one pick to, I guess, play behind Cardwell when he's fit?
Yeah. So to be honest, when I was looking for the 2 sort of striker positions, obviously we've got Cardwell, we've just brought in Dackers on loan, we've got Sandat on loan. We've got a few options there, but I wanted to look at strikers anyway, just whilst I was looking at other targets. So, believe it or not, my number one pick for the striker position was Danny Waldron.
Yes.
Who we signed.
Your crystal ball's working well then, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, obviously, there was very strong rumours that we was going to sign him anyway.
Yeah.
But when I was looking through the numbers to find similar players to Cardwell, in terms of obviously the goal scoring side of it, but the thing about Cardwell is he can contribute in every phase of play, in every sort of match condition. He can help us. So obviously he's tall, he's strong, like to challenge for it, duels when we have to play long over the top of defences, but he's also quick, so he can run in behind as well.
Yep.
And obviously when we're talking about when we don't have the ball, when we want to be aggressive out of possession and press like the other team's defences when they've got the ball, Cardwell can do that as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to his game. But when I was looking for players similar to him, all the sort of metrics I was using, looking at the stats, Waldron come up in all of them.
Yeah.
So for me, he was my number one pick there.
And they've only gone and signed him.
Even if we weren't linked with him. If we weren't linked with him.
So a question I've got, if okay, Joe, is he's obviously been prolific at the lower levels. He's 26, 27, something like that.
Yeah, I think he's 27. Yeah. I think he'll be 28 in the summer. So.
Okay. So obviously it's a step up, but we know he's got goals in him. What are you seeing in the stats with Waldron that we're going to come on to the number 10 position, but you've done a number 9 section and he was your number one centre forward option. So what are you seeing in the stats that suggest to you that he'll be able to make this step up? Because it is a step up,
Yeah, of course it's a step up. I think that obviously he scored a lot of goals, but when you look at I'm not going to go too much. I don't want to bore people too much with all the sort of metrics I've used, but when you look at all the goal scoring sort of metrics, not just about goals, but compare it to his expected goals.
Yeah.
The amount of shots he's getting on target, like as a percentage, is very high.
Yeah.
His goal conversion rate is very high as well. All the sort of things you want a goal scorer to be good at, he ranks very well. So
and he's getting goals.
I think,
yeah.
And he's obviously scoring as well. Yeah. And he's still a great age. Like he's in his prime.
Yeah.
He definitely deserves that step up. And obviously, you never know. Like we'll see what happens. But there's so many players that we've signed from the lower leagues that have stepped up. Carswell as well was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no doubt that I think he'll fit in well. And I think when you watch him play as well, he's such an intelligent player. Like his movement, find space very easily. He only needs a yard of space away from a defender, and then the ball falls to him, and then he'll finish it. So there's things like that to his game, but I think he's definitely earned that step up.
Well, we were denied his debut, weren't we, yesterday, as the Altrincham game got pulled quite late yesterday morning, much to the dismay of some of their fans who were halfway down to watch the game. But he looks to be a really exciting signing, so I'm sure everyone out there is looking forward to seeing him play for Southend. In terms of the number 10 position, then, so the player just behind that. Sandat's been filling in there and doing actually pretty well. I saw him on his debut. I wasn't that impressed. I think he was probably a bit nervous, but a couple of games later, I saw him, I forget against who, and I thought actually he had a really good game up there for man of the match. It was the game that Gus got his 2, so there's no way he was getting near the man of the match for that. But he played well. He was impressive. What are you looking for a number 10 to support Cardwell when he's fit?
Yeah, so the things I looked at for this position, there was kind of 2 types of players I looked at. One was more a support striker, like a Sandat, and one was more of a proper sort of number 10. But I was sort of looking for the same things in both players. Was that obviously you want them to be clinical in front of goal. I think something that we've lacked when we've had. I know he's not here anymore, but when we've played Mooney as that sort of support striker, but he's more of an attacking midfielder. People like Mooney, Jack Wood, they don't take a very high volume of shots, which obviously then puts a lot of pressure on Cardwell or whoever's the proper striker to score more goals. So when I was looking for this position, I want them to be taking a lot of shots, but obviously clinical as well. I want them to be strong enough to sort of win those second balls. So when we go long from defence up to Cardwell, and he can challenge the defenders, when the ball then falls to someone else, if you're playing behind Cardwell, you need to be strong and you need to be able to win so we don't lose possession. So it's things like that. So, but yeah, obviously in front of goal was one of the main things I looked at. There's 2 players I want to mention. The first one is that sort of support striker. Joint top scorer in the National League North with Danny Waldron was Paul Blackett from South Shields. I mean, I pretty much just said what I wanted in a player, and he ranks very well. He's scoring goals. He's clinical in front of goal. He looks quite strong. He's intelligent, so he can sort of drop a bit deeper, find space. He'd be my number 1 pick for that support striker role.
Great. And the second player?
If we were looking for more of a number 10, same position, but more of a midfielder, from Chelmsford City, so very local, Charlie Ruff. He's a midfielder, but he's scored 7 goals, got 7 assists so far. He's clinical in front of goal. He's got like a low centre of gravity, but he's very strong. I think he can sort of drop deeper and link the play, but in front of goal as well, very clinical. So, and because he's local, I think that makes a bit of sense as well. If we want that type of player, who's more of a number 10, but I think he'd be sort of, both of those would be my number 1 pick, depending if we wanted a second striker or a number 10.
Wow. Well, Shrimperscast listeners, you've been in for a treat with Joe on the show today. Tons of information there, and as I've been saying throughout, there is so much more on Joe's blog, which you can find linked to on his Twitter. So we've been through 3 positions. There are 3 other positions as well. So Joe's done full in-depth deep dives on prospects that Southend could be looking at for goalkeeper, for right wing back as well, and for centre forward, which we touched on with Danny Waldron, but there's more on there, more info. So please do check Joe out, get onto his socials, and have a look at the full article. It's really insightful and really in depth. Joe, massive thank you from us for joining us today on Shrimperscast.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Not at all. It's been a pleasure. Good stuff, and we'll definitely get you back on in the future. Next time, the summertime. when there'll be lots of talk of transfers and stuff for the new season. So thanks again, Joe. Much appreciated, mate.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Cheers.
Wow, what an absolute legend there, Steve. Brilliant. Fantastic talking with Joe there. What was it like?
Yeah, no, he's a great guy, Joe. Like I say, I've been trying to think of a way to kind of get him in. And when I saw that he was doing the recruitment article, it made sense to contact him and see if he wanted to come on. And he was all too willing. And I think he'd be a good guy to kind of get on anytime there's sort of, big chances for transfers and things like that, because he really knows his stuff tactically. And if you don't already, please follow him. His main channel is Shrimperscast on Twitter, on the socials, but he's also got his website, which is shrimperscast.data.blog. So that's the URL. It's all linked to from his Twitter as well. So hop on there. Big thanks, Joe. Thanks very much for coming on the show. And let's take a little break. Here on Shrimperscast, we try and get as many varied Southend United guests as possible. We want to ask our listeners, all of you guys out there, who you would like us to get on the show next. If you've got any ideas, any suggestions for us, hit us up on the socials. We're Shrimperscast on all of the social channels. Reach out to us, tell us who you want us to get on the show, and we'll do our level best to get them on, won't we, Paul?
Past, present, and maybe even the future. Anyone in the academy, we haven't interviewed anyone from the academy yet, but let us know who you would like to hear on Shrimperscast, and we will go and get them on.
A relatively short but action-packed Shrimperscast. Obviously, there's been no football to talk about because all the games keep getting postponed and there's tumbleweed everywhere, but massive fixture coming up this weekend, Paul. It's going to be really tricky against the runaway league leaders, Chesterfield. So now it's time for everyone's favourite part of the show.
Paul's previews.
Paul, what have you got for us?
Well, a humdinger. That's what we've got. What a challenge this is going to be. So, yeah, as you said there, the runaway league leaders, Chesterfield, flying high. I think they're 13 points clear at the top, sitting comfortably up there. But they weren't so comfortable when they come to Roots Hall, were they? So we know we can give them a game. So that's really important. I know they're going to be looking probably at us thinking, right, we've got to kind of put that right, get back playing Southend, get a positive result. And, we've been playing them quite a bit over the years. I mean, both former league football clubs. And over the last 24 years, we've played them 23 times. Southend have won 10. There's been 4 draws and Chesterfield have won 9. And over that, 24 years, Southend have won 4 at Chesterfield. We've drawn 3. Chesterfield have only won 5. So it's kind of, when you're on there looking at them stats, it's all in the balance. However, until you look at Chesterfield's form, that goes out the window. Because in the last 5 in the league, they've won 4 and lost just the once. And then you look at their home record, they've played 5 and won 5. Smashing in 15, conceding 4. So we've got it all to do there up in Chesterfield. But, records are there to be broken. We are going in, I'd say, as underdogs. We've been underdogs all season with everything that's been going on. Let's use that to our advantage and really take the game to them and see what comes about.
Yeah, like you say, we got that win against them at Roots Hall, and that was pretty comfortable as I remember it as well. We made it look relatively easy. So the boys will be going in with a bit of confidence from that. But I think their form has sort of run away with itself since then, and Southend's has probably stagnated a little bit. Danger man is Will Grigg, which seems like cheating, doesn't it, having Will Grigg in your team in the National League? He's got 17 so far. So Will Grigg certainly is on fire, and hopefully Southend's defence isn't terrified. Yeah, he's a dangerous player at any level,
class in this league,
especially this level.
Yeah, absolutely. He's easily, comfortably in League One. Probably could still do a job in the Championship, really. And top League 2, absolutely outstanding in non-league here in Vanarama. But yeah, you know, if he turns up and he's in the mood for it, he's going to be an absolute handful, isn't he?
He is indeed, and Southend will be travelling in numbers as ever, so it'll be a nice trip up north for Blues fans on Saturday. So if you're going, send us messages on the socials and let us know what the trip's like and how the game goes. And best of luck to all the fans and, of course, the team travelling up there. Paul, massive thanks for joining me again on today's episode.
Always a pleasure, never a chore, Squire.
And big thank you to everyone out there listening. As ever, please make sure you have a subscribe or a follow or leave a comment or a review wherever you're listening to this. And please share the podcast with your Southend supporting friends so that they can get into it. You know, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Spread the love.
Yeah.
And Wallop. We will see you guys next week for another episode. In the meantime, have a great week and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.